Welcome to Love Light with Dr. Jean Marie Farish. Today, we'll show you how to use the spirit of love and self-worth to improve the connections with everyone else in your life. This program is your weekly gift, and it will keep on giving. You'll see. Now, here's your host, Dr. Jean Marie Farish.
Greetings and a hearty welcome, everyone. I hope you're all faring well. I'm Dr. Jean Marie, your Love Light host, coming to you from the Voice America Empowerment Channel, shining love light into your hearts and homes to inspire and empower you to create a life you love. Many thanks to our worldwide listeners who tune in live and on demand. Our show today, LifeWorks, the 7 Principles of Flow, with Adrian Emery joining us today from Australia, will empower you to unlock the secrets to a life of flow and start your personal journey to feel powerful, optimistic, and in harmony with the universe, leading to joy, success, and personal achievement. Adrian says life is a gift, and we are here to enjoy life and be successful. It's our birthright. So how can being in the flow help us live a life of freedom? Do you find yourself struggling to control situations and circumstances that lead to disappointment and frustration? What does it take to make life work? Lao Tzu quotes, "Those who flow as life flows know they need no other force." And life is a series of natural and spontaneous changes. Don't resist them. That only creates sorrow. Let reality be reality. Let things flow naturally forward in whatever way they like. Being in the flow is transformative, but it takes understanding and daily practice. And our guest today, Adrian Emery, will show us how to understand and stay in the flow. His work is highly impactful to our personal and spiritual lives, and he helps us become more empowered to live an epic life's journey. Adrian Emery is a gifted personal counselor and accountability coach, author, entrepreneur, and also an environmentalist and king gardener, who has devoted his life to creating a new philosophy called LifeWorks, based on understanding the laws, principles, and codes that make life work easily, effortlessly, and successfully. Adrian's central thesis is that all life is one, and learning to live together in peace and harmony is the only path for humanity to survive and thrive. Personal freedom, respect for basic human rights and dignity, and fundamental democratic principles are the cornerstone of this transition. So we are delighted to have Adrian Emery joining us today from beautiful Blue Mountains west of Australia on our show today, LifeWorks, the 7 Principles of Flow. Adrian, welcome to Love Light.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Jean. And yes, I think we're going to have a wonderful conversation about flow.
Indeed, indeed. And Adrian, as I was really, learning more about you, you spent your whole life understanding, perfecting, honing, and learning about how life works. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what really inspired your work and your life's mission?
When I was very young, and I am talking about very young, maybe 3 or 4, look, all children are curious. They have that beautiful wonder and, why do things, how do things work? And for some reason, which I don't know, I was intrigued about life. I really wanted to understand life. I looked at life as a child in the Western paradigm, and it didn't quite make sense to me. I didn't really think, no, there's something missing. This isn't right. And so I wanted to learn more about life and eventually I wanted to create a better society. And I thought, if you want to make a better car, for example, like Elon Musk, you need to learn how cars are made. And so I studied everything I could about life, meaning different philosophies, different traditions, different mores, different cultures, different religions. But none of them really answered the fundamental question that I had, which was, how does life work? Now, we all know when something works and when something doesn't work. For example, this podcast can only work because of our laptops and the internet and a whole host of technological bits and pieces that make it work. We know when our cars work. We know when our vacuum cleaners work. We know when our phones work. And we also know when our life works, meaning that it flows. We also know when we have what I call bad hair days, when life doesn't work, when everywhere you turn there is a resistance and tension and friction and animosity. So the interesting thing, Gene, is that if you look at your life, and many of us are highly educated, we've spent roughly 20 odd years in education, and yet in that whole time, none of us have ever attended a course called LifeWorks 101. We've never been taught how life works. So I really wanted to understand how life works so that I could develop a theory, a philosophy to help humanity live better.
I love that. And Adrian, life is not working for the masses. And there are so many issues that people and humanity are facing now. Can you shed light on that and then share with us maybe your philosophy and beliefs about how life works? Because we know things are really out of sync at this point, and people are yearning for a new way of being with themselves and the world.
Yes, well, a lovely, delightful story of two fish swimming, lovely morning, sun shining. And one fish says to the other fish, "Water's good today." And the second fish says, "What water?" Meaning that we all live within what I'm calling a paradigm. Like air, we're not aware of it, but it is all around it. It encapsulates us. And a paradigm is a set of beliefs. My basic theory is that humanity's beliefs are faulty and erroneous. The reason beliefs are important is because beliefs create reality. You said in your introduction how we want to empower people to create a life that they love, the life that they want to live. Most people do not understand how they are already creating their lives. So we have a choice. I say there are two gifts. The first gift is the gift of life. The second gift is the gift of free will choice, with which we create whatever life we choose. Life is like a blank canvas. You are the artist, and you get to paint or create whatever you want. Most people don't understand this, and the building block of creation is your belief system. So you need to examine your belief system, and humanity needs to examine its holistic, meaning overall belief system. So we, Western people, live within, for want of a better word, the Judeo-Christian paradigm, which has existed roughly for 4,000 years. It's come down from, the Greeks and the Romans and the Western world, and it influences everything we do. But unfortunately, as I said, our belief structure is faulty. So we have created a sociology, a cosmology, a religion, a political system. Our whole reality is based upon a false premise. I believe that humanity is just about to go through the greatest spiritual quantum leap in its history, in its evolution, and that we are going to go through a huge paradigm shift. Now, for example, you in America at the moment with the election, you have many commentators that are looking at this from a political perspective, a cultural perspective, an economic perspective, and even many people looking at it from an empire perspective. But I think we need to go beyond all of that to a holistic cosmic perspective and go, how did we end up in this mess? Humanity is in trouble. Whether we look at it from a species perspective, we have become a cancer on the planet, we are destroying the planet, we are destroying our home, or whether we look at it from an individual perspective, where WHO has just declared that the current epidemic in the Western world is depression, loneliness, mental illness. So wherever we look, and I'm not going to spend time going into the symptoms, we can see that we are in trouble. Our lives are not working. As a species, it's not working. As individual, it's not working. And so we need to fundamentally change at our core who we are and make ourselves a completely different being. I call it the new human. I think we are going to become a completely different species. There have already been 7 species of Homo. Homo sapiens, which we are, is the 7th. And the other 6 are extinct already. So I believe that Homo sapiens, which interestingly means wise human, but I really don't think that we are that wise, because if you look at what we're creating and what we're doing, it is not sustainable. It is not very friendly. We're not very kind. We're not very loving. We have wars everywhere. We have incredible inequality of income. So we fundamentally need to change. And that change, I am saying, is the ability to flow. Because when you flow, you are in harmony with natural law. You are in harmony with cosmic law. You don't even need to become religious or talk about philosophy or God or any of that stuff. You just need to look at life and say, life works. Wherever we look. If we look at the stars, if we look at into a microscope at subatomic particles, if we look at nature, wherever we look at life, it works. But if we look at life in terms of humanity, it doesn't work. So we're out of sync. And to get back into sync, we need to adhere to natural law, universal law, cosmic law, whatever you want to call it, and learn to flow, to live in harmony with those laws.
That's beautifully said. And I was reading something you said about flow. Flow is the forward thrust of evolution through eternity, universal energy, waves of cosmic energy flowing through the universe, universal energy. That's so profound. And, that puts us in harmony. If we're in sync and in alignment, it puts us in harmony with ourselves. And if we're in harmony with ourselves, we can be in harmony with others.
Yeah, I think that's probably my fundamental premise and teaching, is that if you look without, meaning if you look to a religion, if you look to a tradition, I mean, particularly at the moment with this counterculture, the woke culture being cancelled, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, you can't look without for guidance. You need to turn around and look within yourself and honor your own truth. This is probably the most important point, and the difference between my philosophy and those that have preceded us is that it is all based upon going within, listening to yourself, listening to your intuition, listening to your heart, listening to your soul, listening to your core, listening to your gut feelings. You see, the interesting thing, Dean, is that in this paradigm, we have been taught from the year from the year dot, when we're first born, not to trust our feelings, not to daydream, not to trust our imagination, not to trust our gut, not to trust anything that doesn't come through rational, linear logic. But the brain, the mind, the left brain, which is the linear logical side of us is only one very, very small part of our consciousness. We do have an intuition. We do have feelings. We do have gestalts of awareness. We do have, how many times I like to say is, it's a beautiful day, you're leaving, and your intuition says to you, you better take an umbrella. And you go, it's not going to rain, I don't need an umbrella. And it rains. How many times do we not listen to our intuition? How many times do we not trust our gut feeling? How many times do we have a sense, whatever you want to call it, a sixth sense, it doesn't really matter. Oh, I better ring so-and-so. And we don't. So we've become trapped within a very small part of who we are. We don't understand our magnificence. We don't understand the grandeur of what really being a human being is, because we have become so focused on doing, on rushing, on the to-do list, on thinking. So, it's a well-established fact that we use less than 10% of our creativity, as you mentioned in the very beginning. Being creative, creating a life that you want, that you enjoy, that you determine, that you love. We need to be focusing on this. This is the point of the exercise of being a human being, of being alive on planet Earth. Okay. Now, the second point that's really interesting is that
Adrian, if we can kind of like hold your thought, because I am really excited about segment 2, but right now we're ready for a commercial break, and I really appreciate your overall explanation of the troubles that humanity are in now, and all of the things that we need to do to be in more alignment with ourselves and in harmony with ourselves and each other and the universe. But right now, just hold your thought. We're ready for a brief commercial break. So for our listeners, do not go away. Stay tuned for more with Adrian Emery joining us today from Australia. He's a gifted personal counselor, accountability coach. He's the author of the latest release is Tao Tuning, The Art of Flow. He's the author of The Temple of Understanding, a 3-part series, Personal Sovereignty. And he's on our show today, LifeWorks, the 7 Principles of Flow. So stay tuned. Don't go away. We'll return shortly.
Announcing Dr. Jean Marie Farish's new book, Love Mastery Devotion Journal, 21-day weekly prompts and affirmations. This is the companion piece to Dr. Farish's best-selling book, Living in the Spirit of Love, Our Natural State of Being. Through the new book, we invite you to cultivate a lifestyle of love through daily devotional practices over a 21-day period, following 9 ingredients in the recipe of love. Love Mastery Devotion Journal, 21-day weekly prompts and affirmations is available on Amazon.com and Balboa Press.
Jean Marie Farish's Center for Conscious Loving, LLC, cultivates a lifestyle of love and wholehearted connections through personal growth, altruistic services, and speaking engagements. Resources include classes, workshops, life care coaching, and creative service projects with an emphasis on cultural arts. Visit the website at drjeanmariefarish-consciousloving.com. That's drjeanmariefarish-consciousloving.com, or click the link on the Love Light show page.
Best-selling Authors International news honors best-selling authors around the globe. Dr. Jean Marie Farish is featured in the newly released issue of Published Magazine. To have first access to this treasured resource, go to publishedmagazine.com. Vicki Winterton and Dr. Jean Marie Farish have compiled a dynamic book, We're All in This Together, Embrace One Another, an anthology with 24 highly diverse co-authors who share how to spread the message of love, resilience, inclusivity, and compassion. This book is an invaluable source of uplifting, inspiring, and positive insights for spreading positivity in the world. We're All in This Together, Embrace One Another is available on Amazon.com. Be sure to get your copy today. Follow Voice America at facebook.com/Voice America for juicy updates from your favorite radio shows and podcasts.
You are tuned in to Love Light with Dr. Jean Marie Farish. Feel free to connect with our program through email or check out our links on Facebook. Reach Jean at Jean72Farish@yahoo.com. That's Jean72Farish@yahoo.com. And now, back to Love Light.
Well, welcome back to Love Light, living in the spirit of love. And if you're just joining us, we are with our outstanding guest, Adrian Emery, joining us today from Australia on our show, LifeWorks, 7 Principles of Flow. Adrian is a gifted counselor, accountability coach, entrepreneur. He's the author of the latest release, Tao Tuning, The Art of Flow, the Temple of Understanding, 3-part series, and Personal Sovereignty. And we are so delighted to have him on our show today to empower us to create a life we love with flow. So, Adrian, I know when we left before commercial break, you were talking about how we are intuition and being in alignment. And, I think during commercial break, I was sharing with you how when I'm, I always rely on intuition, signs, synchronicities, dreams, or whatever, because they guide me forward. And I do know when I'm out of sync. And I have to stop, take a break, drop everything, I have a meditation garden where I go and sit. And then I collect myself, and get back in tune and more in harmony with myself. So can you proceed with where you took off and talk about the value of intuition and how that helps us stay in alignment and being in the flow?
Okay, that's a fantastic question. Thank you, Jean. Okay, so we need, and I'm sure most of your listeners understand that we do have a right and left hemisphere, that the brain works in those 2 modalities. And I'm not putting logic down. For us to be able to have this conversation, we have had to use time and logic and know to turn up and how to turn on our laptops and all of those sorts of things. But because the paradigm we live in is so focused on thinking, linear, logic, those things come from without, meaning we believe in this paradigm that knowledge comes from learning, from reading, from teaching. It comes from without. And the whole basis of this paradigm is what's called rationalist scientific method, meaning it has to be proved. Now, on the other side, which is intuition, gestalts of awareness, dreams, meditation, gut feeling, all of these things come from within, and you can't prove them. You can't prove a gut feeling. You can't prove an intuition, except when later on you look back and you go, I knew I shouldn't have done that, or I should have listened to my intuition. So hindsight is fantastic. So it's very, very important to understand in this concept of flow that it is all based on being able to go within, to trust yourself. As you just said, when you get good at this, you know immediately when you're out of the flow and you need to stop. You go into your garden of meditation. You need a technique. I go into my garden. You need to have a technique, but first of all, you need to have the awareness that you've lost that ability, that you've lost the flow. And then secondly, you need to have your own technique of, okay, I need to stop. I need to turn within. Look, it can be anything. It can be knitting. It can be sewing. It can be gardening. It can be meditating. It doesn't need to be religious. It might be playing a musical instrument. It may be, just stopping and having a cup of tea. It doesn't really matter what it is, as long as you are consciously aware of the fact. So the first principle of flow is living with conscious awareness. And the first awareness is the awareness of yourself. As you said, you are aware of whether you are in or out of the flow. And that is the first thing that I would want to teach and emphasize to people, is that you must develop this awareness of whether you are in or out of the flow. Now, the flow in traditional literature is reserved for a peak experience, whether that's rock climbing or elite sports or playing music or doing something special. I totally disagree with that. I think flow is our natural state of being, and it's where we should be residing as much of the time as possible. My goal is to be there as much as possible, and I call that the zone of flow. You won't always be flowing, but you can always live in the zone of flow, and you can develop an acute awareness of whether you are in or out of the flow. And as soon as you are aware that you have lost your flow, you do need to stop. You can imagine driving a car and all of a sudden you're aware that you're falling asleep. You need to stop. You don't keep driving because you're going to have an accident. So when you are out of the flow, that is when things go wrong. Not because you're being punished, not because you are bad, but because you're just not in harmony with the universe. So you need to stop, get back into harmony, and then get going again. As I said, it doesn't really matter as long as you have a consciously designed technique and you do it mindfully. That's what the mindfulness movement means. So you don't just have a cup of tea. You don't just go to your meditative garden. You go there with the clarity,
Yes.
with the intention, and with the mindfulness of, okay, I need to get back in sync. I need to get back in the flow. I need to get back into harmony. And that usually also involves a little bit of introspection,
Yes.
where the inner critic comes in and positively identifies how you got out of the flow. So if you're walking down the street and you trip on a trip hazard, you don't keep walking in the same place and tripping over the same stone. You become aware of it and avoid it. We need to become aware of what our particular predilection is, because we all have these things that throw us out of the flow. We all have our buttons. We all have our weaknesses. We all have our flaws. This is what we have come to work on. This is what spiritual evolution is all about. So being in the flow for me is the acid test. If I'm in the flow, doesn't mean I'm perfect, doesn't mean I'm finished, doesn't mean that I'm better than or greater. It just means that I am in harmony with my destiny, with my purpose, with where I am at right now, and everything is working. If I get out of the flow, then that is the message from life, from my being going, Adrian, you need to pay attention, you need to figure out where you went wrong and get back on track.
And Adrian, one of the things that I like to just share is that when I'm in the flow, things come to me effortlessly.
Oh,
And I mean, it's almost like magic. And it's like, and that's the litmus test for me. That's so reinforcing for me, because the more I stay in the practice of it, it's like it's so natural. It doesn't take long, and I'm guided. I'm led to where I need to be, what I need to get, who I need to connect with, or whatever. So for me, it's a litmus test. So carry on with your principles, because this
that is such an important concept. So, and that's why I call it Tao tuning. So the Tao is the wave. Now, whether you've surfed or not, whether you've skied or not, it doesn't really matter. What you just hit the nail on the head. When you are in the flow, the wave, whatever you want to call it, carries you along. And so it's you see, most people are so intent on imposing their own egoic will on reality that they have to use all this energy, all this effort, all this stress, all this striving. I've got to do this. It's a very willful, egoic, negative thing. When you surrender to the flow, then that wave carries you along. But not only does it carry you along, it brings all these wonderful things to you.
Yes.
And so I want to go back to where we were just before we went on that break, which is that the second principle, or the second error in this misunderstanding, in the temple of misunderstanding, is that we believe that life is hard, that life is a bitch, that you have to work hard, that there's not enough, that there's, whereas, and that is because we're out of the flow. As you just said, when you're in the flow, it's magical, serendipitous, synchronistically, things just happen, come along, and there's this absolutely beautiful, it's very hard to describe, but as you said, it is just so magical, and it is the litmus test. I know that if I am not in the flow, then I really need to be very careful, very wary, and almost do nothing, just, go within, because I'm not in that sync. The gears are not meshing, so there's a lot of friction, there's a lot of tension, things are going to go wrong. And synchronicity exists, but again, synchronicity is not a part of this logical, linear, rational reality that the West wants to impose upon us. So if we trust our intuition, if we follow our inner gut and our inner feelings, then that wave, one of the things that I really believe and emphasize is what I call the divine benevolence of the universe, which basically means life is delightful. Life is a joy. Life has your back. Life wants to work with you. So you need to develop what I'm calling a business partnership with your life, where you actually work co-creatively together to do, as you emphasized at the very beginning, that you're creating this life that you love. So it's like having a love affair with your life. And it also gets so interesting, as you said, it's like that litmus test. Oh, hang on. What's life bringing to me now?
Yes.
Oh, life's not working right now. Well, I better get back on track. It's life can be this unbelievable, joyous journey of wonder, of awe, of excitement, like a little child. If you look at a little child, every moment is just so exciting. It's like, wow, what's going to happen next?
And that's the way you wake up, within the flow. If you wake up in the flow, it's like you're in this excitement and you're wondering what's coming forth today. So it's so enthusiastic.
But isn't it interesting, Jean, that when you wake up and you say, what's going to come today, you know that it's going to be positive, because when you're in the flow, it is positive. Whereas when you're out of the flow, you wake up in the morning and you go, oh, what's going to go wrong today? It's almost like you have to steel yourself. And so you immediately start the day in this resistance. Because if you're in resistance, if you're trying to swim upstream, if you're going against the flow because of your, what I call the negative ego, it's like, and I like to use when I talk about LifeWorks, I go, and driving. So you are a human being on planet Earth. We don't need to go into religion. We don't need to go into philosophy. We don't need to go into who or what is God. We just need to accept that fact and start there. You are a human being on planet Earth. You need to learn to live, to work your life, to drive this vehicle, which is your body, which is your life on this planet. So if you get in your car and you just put your foot on the accelerator and you don't obey the road rules and you veer into the wrong lane, it is only a matter of time before you are going to have an accident. So life is exactly the same. If you are in the flow, and I go into a lot of detail in the book Tao Tuning, because I am saying that learning to live your life well is a skill. It can be learnt like any other skill. There are rules. There is a roadmap, just like learning how to drive or learning how to type or learning how to do anything. You can learn to live your life joyfully, happily, harmoniously. So if you get in your car and you do all the right things and you obey the road rules and you drive excellently, you will get to your destination. If you get in your car and drive recklessly and do not follow the road rules, you will have an accident. So it is exactly the same. We need to live our lives in harmony with natural, universal law, and then we are in the flow. As I said before, that wave comes along, carries us, so it's fairly effortless. It's very positive. We know it's going to be joyous. We know it's going to be exciting. We know that wonderful things are going to happen to us. And so there is an awe and a wonder that comes in, and it's like the joy is like a fountain. It arises spontaneously within us. Happiness can come and go depending on what's happening in our lives, but joy needs to be your constant companion. As you just said, you wake up in the morning joyous, happy, delighted, with a positive expectancy of what wonderful thing is going to happen today. What's going to happen today? And it's like, you bounce out of bed. You don't have to drag yourself out of bed because there's this eagerness, this enthusiasm, and this positive expectancy of something delightful happening.
Perfect. And when we come back from break, we'll have more. It's something I listened to that you were sharing. You're like, stop thinking, go within, go into silence. You will know from visceral experience and gut feelings the things to do. Be willing to take risks. And you talked about boldness and courage and the need to trust yourself and to allow life to guide you and flow. That's so amazing. And I like for us to talk more about that when we come back from break with you sharing more of those principles to the art of flow. So right now we're ready for another commercial break. So for our listeners, stay tuned for more with this self-empowering, amazing show with Adrian Emery joining us today from Australia. Gifted personal counselor, accountability coach, author, entrepreneur. On our show today, LifeWorks, the 7 principles of flow. Stay tuned. We'll return shortly.
Dr. Jean Marie Farish is proud to announce the release of her new book, Living in the Spirit of Love, Our Natural State of Being, available now at Balboa Press. This book will help you master your life and flourish in love. You'll learn how to become a better and more evolved you. Feel good by making life-affirming choices. Deepen your feelings and expressions of love. Tune in love and sustain the change. And flourish in love and find your joy. Visit BalboaPress.com and search for Living in the Spirit of Love and enjoy Dr. Farish's new book today.
I'm Judy Satori. I'm a spiritual channel and activator of human potential. You might have heard me speaking on the Voice of America on Dr. Jean Farish's show, Love Light, because I've been speaking about the challenges that are besetting all of us right now and how we can surrender but also keep on going. I want to invite you to join my new Facebook group that is devoted to heart-centered connection and unity. Through this Facebook group, you can also join my free access question and answer session with Spirit on the first Wednesday to Thursday of every month. Just search Ascension Community on Facebook to join the group. In this session, I answer questions and transmit energy from Spirit to give you guidance and support. Because life on planet Earth ain't easy right now. And there is so much help from above, from beings of love and light, from multidimensional realities who are actually here with us, wanting to step up and support us. I welcome you to become part of our ongoing group conversation about evolutionary change and how it's affecting us as human beings and affecting our life today. Many blessings to you. You can find out more about me and my work at www.ascensionlibrary.org. Have a wonderful day.
Announcing Dr. Jean Marie Farish's new book, Love Mastery Devotion Journal, 21-day weekly prompts and affirmations. This is the companion piece to Dr. Farish's best-selling book, Living in the Spirit of Love, Our Natural State of Being. Through the new book, we invite you to cultivate a lifestyle of love through daily devotional practices over a 21-day period, following 9 ingredients in the recipe of love. Love Mastery Devotion Journal, 21-day weekly prompts and affirmations is available on Amazon.com and Balboa Press. Best-selling Authors International news honors best-selling authors around the globe. Dr. Jean Marie Farish is featured in the newly released issue of Published Magazine. To have first access to this treasured resource, go to PublishedMagazine.com.
It's your world. Motivate, change, succeed. VoiceAmericaEmpowerment.com.
You are tuned in to Love Light with Dr. Jean Marie Farish. Feel free to connect with our program through email or check out our links on Facebook. Reach Jean at Jean72Farish@yahoo.com. That's Jean72Farish@yahoo.com. And now, back to Love Light.
Welcome back to Love Light, Living in the Spirit of Love. And if you're just joining us, we are with our outstanding guest, Adrian Emery, joining us today from Australia. On our show today, LifeWorks, the 7 Principles of Flow. And this has been an amazing show. Adrian is a gifted counselor, accountability coach, author, entrepreneur, and his latest release is Tao Tuning, The Art of Flow. He's also the author of Personal Sovereignty, The Temple of Understanding, 3-part series. So now we're returned with more of Adrian's principles of flow. Adrian, take it away.
Okay, Jean, you just mentioned a very, very important point, and I think this is the key to the whole exercise, because people might say, okay, all right, yeah, I get it, all flows beautiful, blah, blah, blah. How do I get there? What do I do? Where do I start?
Yes.
So the most important point is to stop thinking. Because, again, going back to the linear logical mind, it is always thinking. If you look at your mind, it is total nonsense. And we need to understand that there are, I think, 3 types of thought. One, the one that I'm talking about, is what I call the yama yama of the mind, meaning it's just the thinking that's going round and round all the time, thinking, blah, blah, blah. 2 is positive thought. Okay, I'm going shopping, my to-do list, or, what am I going to do today? Or, how am I going to join this podcast? The 3rd is what I call creative thought. Now, creative thought is something that is new, not something that you've read, not something that you've learned, not something that you've regurgitated, not AI generated. This is a pure, new, creative thought. It's like a pearl that drops into your consciousness. But in order to flow, in order to have that, we need to stop the yama yama of the mind. Because when we are thinking, invariably what we do is we either go into the past or to the future. So we're thinking about, I should have said this, or I should have done that, or why did that happen? There's some sort of regret about the past, or we're anticipating thinking about the future, or we want to be somewhere where we are not, meaning the grass is always greener. So I'm at work thinking about what I'm going to do tonight, or I'm somewhere thinking about where else I can be. So we need to understand that the intersection of time and space is the point of now. And the point of now is the point of power, is the point of joy, and is the point of change. You cannot change the past. You cannot change the future. You can only change the present. And that point of now in that silence, as you said, going within, stopping the thinking, being silent. And interestingly, in all the studies of flow, all the participants who have experienced flow, that is the first thing that they all say, is that time stops or ceases or stands still. And so you are not thinking about the past or the future, but you are totally focused in the present. And I call that being now. As I mentioned before, we have become human doings. We're no longer human beings. We're just incessantly doing, and particularly in this age of digital connection and noise and haste and television. And so there's never a moment of peace. We need to find inner peace. We need to find inner serenity and solitude and quiet and stop the yama of the mind, and that takes practice and discipline. But when you do, when you be now, when you go into the present, then you have control, you have mastery, you can make contact with what I am calling your Tao, your personal Tao. Get on your wave, get on your path. It's like Christ said, I am the way, the truth, and the light. You are the way, the truth, and the light for you. I am the way, the truth, and the light for me. All anybody can do is listen to their own inner essence. But as you mentioned before, Jean, for you to be able to even know that you're in the flow or know that you're not, for you to listen to your intuition, for you to know that visceral gut feeling, you have to get out of the thinking mind. You have to silence that yama noise that is going on all the time. And if you study it, you will see that the things that you're thinking about, the fears that you are entertaining are the same as last week, last year, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. If you're old, 40, 50 years ago, it doesn't change. The mind doesn't change its story. It just keeps going round and around, and it is literally insane. So when you stop, go into the silence, turn within, listen, not to your mind, but listen to your heart, listen to your soul, listen to your intuition, listen to your gut, trust your sense and yourself, then you enter a completely different reality, which is the world of flow, which is a very spiritual world, a very peaceful world. And you then know in your core where you are going, what you are doing, and who you are.
Beautiful. Continue. Anything else about the principles of flow? Because you are so correct. You have to connect within, have that silent time, know when you're out of sync. And I think awareness really is the key, to be aware when you're not. And I can feel it in my whole body when I'm out of sync. And it's like, okay, get back to, who you really are.
Yeah, I think the other thing, Jean, that one needs to do is to develop a relationship with yourself.
Yes.
So imagine that you just met someone, whether it's, a love affair or just a really good friend or an interesting person. You want to spend a lot of time with that person. You want to hang out with that person. You want to get to know that person. We become, whether we want to call it infatuated, whatever. But we don't do that with ourselves. You need to fall in love with yourself. You need to hang out with yourself. You need to spend time with yourself. And I mean alone. I'm talking about in solitude. And when I did a lot of counseling, I used to say to people, take yourself out for dinner.
Yes.
Sit in a restaurant on your own and really enjoy your meal. And don't feel self-conscious. Don't feel that there's something wrong with you. Because the interesting thing is, as soon as we are on our own, that nagging, not good enough feeling immediately comes up, and we think that people are looking at us because we're on our own. We think there's something wrong with us because we're on our own. And so we immediately, so don't reach for your phone, don't reach for your laptop, don't sit there and wonder what the people at the other table are doing and, everybody's looking at me. I'm talking about thoroughly enjoying your meal, focusing on it, and being content, being happy, being satisfied with being who you are. Develop a relationship with you. It is a very hard thing to do. Take yourself for a walk. Find out what your preferences are. Find out what you love to do. Most people don't know what they want. Most people, if they need to make a decision, immediately turn to their significant other or their loved one or a friend or someone and, want to talk about it and tell me what to do, help me make a decision. No, learn to trust yourself. Learn to go within. Practice making decisions. Practice finding out who you are, what you are all about. As you said at the very beginning, if you want to create a life that you love, you need to firstly know who you are and what you love. If you don't know yourself, if you are just a caricature, this woke society, they just want to turn us all into clones because then we are so much easier to control. But the most important thing is to be authentic. And I think this is probably where I can summarize it all and
Yes.
to finish is that being authentic, being yourself. If life is a gift, as I'm suggesting, and if life is a gift from God, from the deity, from whatever you want to call it, imagine that you are given a beautiful gift in a box, wrapped, ribbon, everything, and you just pick it up and put it in the cupboard, and you don't even open it. And then imagine that you're a little child and you can't wait, so you rip the paper to shreds and you pull the ribbon up and you open the box and you get all excited to look inside it. That's the excitement that you need to look inside yourself, not to be afraid that what you're going to see is ugly or wrong or bad. You are going to find the inner divine spark of your essence. You are going to find something that is absolutely beautiful and whole and joyous. And so you need to unwrap that gift, explore that gift, enjoy that gift, build a life of delight. And one of my favorite affirmations, it's very, very simple. 2 words, life delights. My life is delightful.
Yes.
That is such a strong affirmation to counter all the negativity of life sucks, life a bitch, life doesn't work, there's something wrong with me, something's always going to go wrong, all of that negative stuff that we carry around with us when we are in that yama yama of the brain. So be authentic, trust yourself, enjoy being with yourself, find out who you are. My goal is to be the best version of myself. So every moment I want to create the next best version of myself. We talk about personal best in elite sports, but we don't talk about personal best in our being. Who am I right now in this moment, having this conversation in this podcast? I want to be as clear as I can. I want this sentence to be the most powerful that I can say. So I want every moment to be the best version of myself that I can create.
That is such a good summary. Adrian, we really appreciate you being here today. Can you tell the listeners how to connect with you? We're about to close out, but can you just share your site and they can go and learn more about your retreats and things of that nature?
Okay, so obviously the starting point is my website, which is Adrian Emery, all lowercase.com. There you'll find a blog that I do probably once or twice a month, and I try to make it, a little bit satirical and entertaining about what's going on the planet, but from a cosmic perspective.
All right.
You can join my newsletter. You will get a free download of the 7 Principles of Flow. Tao Tuning is going to be released on the 17th of September, so it will be available when this show comes out. And
Beautiful.
I thoroughly recommend people get Tao Tuning because it is a complete manual. It's not esoteric. It's not, very complicated. It is very simple, concrete steps and manual of how to live happily and successfully in the flow.
Oh, Adrian, that is so beautiful. And we really appreciate you being on Love Light today, sharing your wisdom and insights to inspire us to flow with life and create a life that we love. So for our listeners, connect with Adrian, access his books to delve deeply into the art of flow, visit his site. We invite our listeners to tune in on demand and share our show with others. Much gratitude to the Voice America team for making this show a reality and for shining their love light in the world. Being in the flow can transform your life. Life can be easier, more fulfilling, and harmonious. And I close with an excerpt on divine flow. Flow with life. Be free, flexible, and adapt to change. Being in the flow releases divine power in your life. Allow what comes to move freely. Allow what needs to leave. Exit gracefully. Let go and move forward. Open your heart and create space for something new. Release expectations and control. Have faith in your journey. Trust in supernatural powers. Trust in yourself and let the magic flow. This is Dr. Jean Marie, your Love Light host, coming to you from Voice America. And until we meet again, remember, an empowered self is a loving self. And keep your love light shining. We really appreciate you. We really appreciate Adrian Emery for joining us today. And thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you for listening to Love Light this week. Be sure to join Dr. Jean Marie Farish again for another program next Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and noon Eastern Time on the Voice America Empowerment Channel. Have a wonderful week filled with love, self-worth, and better connections.